Well, let's now speak to the management of L&T Finance Holdings, and Sivaraman, who's the president, now joins us. He now joins us on the numbers. Now, firstly, actually, there's some news report that the L&T Finance is seeking RBI approval to acquire ING Vesya Bank. Mr. Sivaraman would like to know, is there any truth to this news?
Well, as a management policy, we don't respond to speculative comments on the media. As and when there are firm news about any corporate action, it will be known to the public. It will be not appropriate to make any comments at this point of time. We don't respond to speculative news.
Okay, but is there any discussion going on with the management right now with respect to acquisitions? Is the thought process on without being very specific about this?
No. I think it will not be right to make any comments. Please pardon me, because this is speculation. Do create more concerns for us, really.
Okay, we'll leave that aside then and talk a little bit about your financials. Your provision cover, that's relatively low at about 33%. The gross NPA is at around 2.96% post the revised norms. By how much do your provision costs rise and increase going forward?
I think the first is RBI has given time in terms of compliance, a 3-year timeline starting 1st April 2015, so that gives you a lot of time. Having said that, at the outside, let me say that our provision coverage levels are adequate for the assessed losses on our balance sheet, so that doesn't really concern, or it does not cause us any anxiety that we may have to kind of increase the level of provisioning that we carry at the moment. The situation that is likely to emerge is that we will be moved down to 150 days provisioning norm by the year 2016, which means only 30 days. Typically, we ourselves have set a goal for our own organization that in about 2 years time frame we should be able to achieve far better levels of overdues than what we have today. So that's a goal that we have set for ourselves. The processes are in place, the collection practices have been calibrated in that fashion. So it's something which I don't see it having any significant negative impact on our P&L, either at the capital adequacy levels or at as far as the provisioning norm that we need to adapt, or the standard assets provisioning additionally that we need to provide. None of them should have an impact on the P&L.
Okay, and in terms of the NBFC norms, so what will be the impact on your profits?
No, that's what I mentioned. Basically, it will have to come from the provisioning, additional provisioning that we have to provide for higher levels of NPAs, given that the NPA recognition norms are changing from next fiscal year onwards. Our provision approach to provisioning, as well as the way we provide, does allow us adequate coverage as of now. There will be no need for making any significantly larger provisioning in the next fiscal year. So we should be fine with where we are, our P&L.
Just to probe the point further, given that we have been speaking to some of the other gold loan companies as well on the impact of these NBFC norms, you did talk about your NPAs. So is there any sort of ballpark number as to where you see them headed, and is there going to be an impact on the margin picture as well, and if so, could you just give us some details?
No, but it doesn't impact the margin at all. Okay. See, if I take a snapshot picture as of today, there will be 1x number, but that's not relevant because we are talking about the year ending to 31st March 2016, which is about 18 months from now, right? The economy is improving on one ground, so that itself will improve the collectability of our receivables. The second aspect is that our own collection behavior and practices and the customers' responses to our collection efforts are going to be different. So there is no point in speculating 18 months later what will be the situation really. But suffice to say that given our overall current provisioning practices and the efforts that we are putting on the ground, the P&L impact is not likely to be very significant.
Okay, now your Tier 1 stands at 14.33%. Assuming you have sufficient capital for growth, will the Tier 1 requirement have impact on you?
Well, RBI requires only a 10% requirement, and conservatively we have a slightly higher levels of capital adequacy on our balance sheet on a actual basis. So I don't see this really changing our capital requirement. The new guidelines are not going to change our capital requirements. RBI's requirement for the next fiscal year is 8.5. Potentially, I can actually I have about 6% of additional capital available on my balance sheet. So regulation itself will not require capital raising.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time out, Mr. Sivaraman, waiting back patiently and giving us more clarity and details as to what exactly these NBFC norms mean for your sector as well as for the company. Well, that's the word coming out from L&T Finance. No impact on the margins on account of the new NBFC norms. The stock is holding out in tandem with some of the other players in the space, up by a good 1.8%. Meantime, let's also find